Hey Milwaukee, how you doing? My name is Tony Nobly Jr. I'm really glad to be with you. Thank you, Pastor Sheldon and Zach and all the other pastors who invited me to come be a part of this. I'm really glad to see you. Hey, John Momentary, a good buddy of mine from Southern. Haven't seen you in a while, John. It's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Um, Really great to be with you and to do something like this. I think it's awesome that we as groups are able to come together use technology really the way that it's meant to be used. A lot of times we tend to use it as a distraction or maybe as a way to keep the bad thoughts away. But now we're using it to create community. Obviously, not the best way. In person is always special, but it's awesome to be able to have a chance to get together. So I'm going to do a quick prayer and then let's go ahead and get this thing started. Jesus, thank you so much for bringing us together today. It's another day of life, another day to be grateful and thankful. God, I ask that as we dive into your word that you would give us a better picture of your face because you are awesome and we want to know who you are. In your name, amen. I've been going through life journals for anyone who's ever done that Bible reading plan. And recently, I'm a little bit behind. I'm actually about a month behind, but I've been going through Second Corinthians, and just some of the stuff in Second Corinthians really hit me hard, especially in particular Second Corinthians 4. So if you have your Bibles, I'm going to be reading starting in verse 7. And Paul says this: "We have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power of God, the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. We're afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed, always carrying the body of the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may be also manifested in our bodies." Paul's trying to explain to the Corinthians why some of the issues that they have um, are simply because we live in a sinful world. And as I was going through and thinking about all the loss and the suffering that's being brought about because of this quarantine, it just brought me a little bit of hope. I've also been involved in the It Is Written Bible series that's been going on, Revelation series, and talking to some of the people as a virtual Bible worker, it's been at times extremely emotional because you have so many people that are just affected in serious, serious ways. Parents who are afraid for their kids, kids afraid for their parents and grandparents, people losing jobs, people who moved to a brand new state and months later aren't able to work at all, had no chance to get settled in and are struggling. And it really struck me at the last part of this chapter, something that just, it really spoke out to me. So I want to read that for you guys here. It says this in verse 16: "So we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light, momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal." I think Paul was very cognizant of the fact that these things that we suffer are not very light and not very momentary. In fact, right now, it can seem quite overwhelming for a lot of people. I know of one family in particular that the father got sick, within 2 days passed away because of the virus. That doesn't seem light, that doesn't seem momentary, that's incredibly crushing. I think of all the people that are struggling in my own family, and what they're going through, and of myself. I want to apologize for not being able to bring Sandy Koufax. If you saw my picture with me, he's back at home with my parents, and he's stuck there. I can't see him. I can't hang out with my parents. I had to do a Zoom meeting with all the mothers yesterday on the internet, and I wasn't able to be with them in person. Um, to be honest, my great grandmother is probably going to pass away in the next week or so, and I can't be there for her. I can't say goodbye. These aren't light, these aren't momentary, but I think Paul understood and wanted to give us the idea about perspective. It says, when you compare what we're going through with eternity, with the promise that God has for us, everything is light and momentary. One of the things I struggle with is depression. If any of you have ever had clinical depression or had a family member struggle with it, you understand that it seems in that moment, particularly with anxiety, like everything is just so huge. You can't step back and get perspective. And I think that's what Paul's trying to bring here. He's trying to say, step back and realize that everything that we go through in this life, it is light and momentary when we compare it to the surpassing glory that Jesus has for us. I think Jesus was also talking about this in John chapter 16. He goes through and he's talking to his disciples. And these are verses, by the way, that I've been reading a lot recently. And whenever things start to feel a little bit too much, I go back and I read through these. So I wanted to share them with you. This is right at the end of the Last Supper. Jesus begins to talk to his disciples and tell them all the bad things that are going to happen. And finally, in verse 33, he says this: I have said these things to you, that in me you may have heart. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart. I have overcome the world. It's such a powerful verse. I love the way that Jesus explains things. He warned us that things are going to get bad. He, in fact, gave us an entire book that, quite honestly, our church has probably done more to interpret than anybody else in the history of this world. And it's not a happy book if you just read it through. If you just kind of focus on the middle sections, there's a lot of suffering and crying out to God and plagues and things being opened up and waters boiling. But if you read through the end, that's the important part. And most importantly, he says, I'm telling you these things so that in me you can have peace. In this world, you're going to have tribulation. It's going to happen. If you're doing Christianity right, it's going to happen. We live in a world of sin. One of the things I've stopped saying at memorials, funerals, sad events is, well, this is part of God's plan, because it really wasn't. If you think about what God's plan was, his plan was for us to live in Eden happily forever. This is all not part of God's plan. But I do believe that even through the storm, he's with us because he's overcome the world. Now, if you'll notice, I'm wearing a hat, and if I kind of lean back, you can see my shirt. One of my favorite teams ever, and the team that I follow with soccer, is the Liverpool Football Club. And this isn't a promo, I promise, although they are leading the Premier League when it comes back this season. The reason why I wear it is much more for this little inscription on the back. YNWA. I don't know if that's backwards for you, but it stands for You'll Never Walk Alone. In 1945, Rodgers and Hammerstein created a musical that some critics say actually contains their best music, but it's not one of their better known ones. It's called Carousel. Of course, they're known for Cinderella, the South Pacific, and a host of several famous films that have been turned into, or musicals that have been turned into films. But this one was kind of not well known, even at the time. In 1956, a movie was made of it, and again, did not get a big passing. Did not really hit a lot. But one of the songs in it was called You'll Never Walk Alone. And in 1963, a band called Jerry and the Pacemakers from Liverpool decided to do a cover of this. And right before the 1963 season, they gave this song to the manager of the club, Bill Shankly. Right before the season started, they gave him the single, and he was so impressed by it that he decided to make it what he would play before his club, before they started games. And the fans heard about this and started singing it before games. And pretty soon it became so synonymous with the club that it even shows up on their crest. You'll never walk alone. The idea behind it is that, well, I'll just read some of the lyrics. When you walk through the storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the road, there's a golden light and a sweet singing song of a lark. Walk on through the rain, walk on through the storm, and you'll never walk alone. It's a beautiful, beautiful song and a beautiful sentiment that no matter what you're going through, you'll never have to walk alone, because in this context, the Liverpool supporters will always be with you. And through several disasters that have happened, including one where 96 fans lost their life in 1989, the idea that you'll never walk alone has become so powerful. And one of the things that really drew me to the club, that sense of camaraderie, that sense of community, the sense of being able to survive anything because you know that you're not going through it alone. And that to me was what really stood out when I read these verses. God isn't saying to us, Paul isn't saying to us that these things that we're going through don't matter, that they don't have weight, that the pain that you're suffering isn't real. He's saying that even when you suffer through that, you'll never walk alone. And that as you walk through it together, as we walk through it together with God at our side, that the eventual joy that we will be able to experience together is going to surpass everything, and it'll make us look back and forget even why we were sad. That's the joy that I think about, that I focus on when I start to feel a little bit overwhelmed or start to think, when is this going to end? When can I go out and just hang out with my friends and go see my family? That's what I think about, that you'll never walk alone. In this world, you'll have tribulations, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. Milwaukee, thank you so much for having me. Hope you guys have an amazing day, a blessed day. And remember, no matter what you do, you will never walk alone.